What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of In His Design Podcast. I am Kike, and I'm here with
Alonso Jimenez.
And we have a very special guest, Franne. How are you today, Franne?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
Great. It was a beautiful weekend.
Beautiful weekend. Yeah, so yesterday was One Life LA. Well, if you guys watched the episode, which is on Monday, 2 days ago, according to the day that it releases, but we had One Life LA this weekend. It was an amazing day. I mean, I think there was more people compared to last year. And we'll start off, Alonso. What do you think, or what was your experience like yesterday?
I mean, I was kind of bummed when on our way because it was raining. And I was like, you know what? People are not going to show up. It's going to be maybe a mess, But we're not doing it for ourselves. We're not doing it to have fun. We're doing it to carry out a message. And it's a message of God, a message of life. So I don't care if everybody doesn't go, I'm going. Yeah. So that was my attitude, even though I was kind of, struggling with the feeling, but I was still, I'm still going.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and Franne, I know, you've been attending these for a while, right?
Yeah. It's pretty much regularly. I probably only missed the virtual one, ironically. Okay. But the in-person ones, I definitely attend them all since I think the very first one. And also, like Alonso, I was like somewhat discouraged. I'm like, a lot of people are not going to go. It's raining, Also feeling discouraged a bit, but, putting my part in attending and hoping to see a lot of people that, I knew there. And to my surprise, I was just like, wow, I was amazed at the attendance aside from the rain. It was beautiful.
No, yeah, yesterday was actually, when we got there, because we parked at the park, and then we took an Uber to Placita Olvera. So as soon as we got there, we saw a bunch of people. We're like, oh man, like people are actually showing up, which is great. I mean, we just saw a bunch of umbrellas. So it was kind of hard. I mean, especially when you're actually marching, it was hard to get through because you keep bumping into umbrellas. You're like, you know what? I'm just gonna let myself get drenched with the rain. But today's episode is very important. It connects to One Life LA. But first of all, Franne, welcome to the show, and also tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it. You guys giving me some time here to share my story. I mean, it's a pretty radical change in my life. Never imagined myself attending a One Life LA event ever in my life. I'm amazed I'm sitting across from you guys and giving this testimony because at one point I actually used to be an abortion worker. I worked for Planned Parenthood for almost 5 years. And of course, I know this was probably more than 10 years ago, but still, the fact that I used to work for them and I truly, wholeheartedly believe everything they said and what they taught me. I was completely infused and brainwashed with their message.
That's extreme, but God calls us to do extreme things in our lives. When we change, it's a 360, right? Totally opposite, and we're happy, we're glad that you're here on this side, right? On the right team. You said you believed it, and how many women are out there that believe it? They follow it like a religion, right? That everything they say, it has to be true, but they don't open up their eyes, and you opened up your eyes. How was that?
Oh my gosh, that was, I think, one of the hardest things in my story. I was very hesitant to believe. I was blindfolded with all the lies that Planned Parenthood had, the women's rights and feminism. Back then, like all these things that I believed, like I said, wholeheartedly and genuinely. I mean, growing up, I saw a lot of abuse at home. So definitely working towards protecting women, defending women, and giving women's rights was my thing that I wanted to work in towards protecting and defending, because that was the only way of us being able to flourish as women.
And when you were working at the clinic, was there something that kind of just, I mean, whatever it might be, like a little feeling or something, but was there something there telling you like, hey, maybe what I'm doing is not the right thing. Maybe what I'm doing is causing harm on these women, because I'm sure in the clinic, right, they believe that they're helping people. They're helping these young girls, or, it doesn't matter what age they come in to get their abortions, right?
Yeah.
Was there something that told you like, maybe we are harming them, right? Maybe psychologically, I mean, you're not just murdering an innocent unborn child, right? But you're also in a way murdering the soul of a young woman, right? Because after abortions, right? I mean, there's studies out there, women that have abortions, they go through depression, anxieties, they go through all these things, But again, did you feel any of that or come to mind?
Well, initially I didn't know any of those things because Planned Parenthood doesn't mention them, doesn't train us about them, about it, and doesn't, we have a blind eye on it. But initially, ironically, I was a teen mom at 16, and ironically, I did say yes to life, thank God, and to La Virgen de Guadalupe, to her intercession. My daughter's now 22. And she's beautiful. She's the best decision I made for me. Like I said, growing up with this feminist ideology, I thought that was my decision. That was my choice. That was a great decision for me. And yes, there was something in my heart back then as a teenager. I think all teenagers have it, that tell us intuitively, most likely is the Holy Spirit, that something is wrong with this decision, right? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to prevent teen pregnancy because that's what, I'm going to work towards helping my community, the Latino community, because there's all these teen pregnancies going on. And I'm going to go and help and work in Planned Parenthood and be able to teach all these Latinas and Latinos about birth control and how to prevent pregnancy. I was just so eager and passionate to serve in this way. But little did I know, right away in the first year of working there, I wasn't seeing teenagers. If anything, they're most likely predominantly the ones that carry on with their pregnancies, actually. And even Planned Parenthood knows that because their main population, or the targeted population they serve, is 18 to 26 or 18 to 30-year-olds that are committing these abortions, that are getting abortions. And I was just, there's something that began striking me in my mind and my heart was that, I went to this young adult group at my church, and because I was going through some difficult times personally, I had broken up with the boyfriend and all these things that were going on, and I just was tired. I was just like, I can't continue my life like this. I was 26, and I'm like, there's something that I'm doing wrong, something that's wrong, and the only person that I can go to was God. And that's where my journey started, in that young adult group. And seeing those young adult group leaders, how they carried themselves, how they served, how they had this peace and joy, truly an image of God that I saw in them. And I wanted that. I wanted that so much. And so my journey began with them.
Wow. So it's very interesting, right? That you mentioned you had a daughter, and then you started working, but you had these ideas, and then you mentioned about Our Lady of Guadalupe. Was that a conflict that you were having during your time there in the clinic, with your Catholic beliefs, or were you literally separating them? That's how you were coping with that?
Yeah, I did. That's a great question. Yeah, I definitely separated it, and I didn't really see. I would say back then I was Catholic, but like many of our community are just Catholic by name, by tradition, because my mom told me to. And I just go there because, you know, I have to. And I didn't put a lot of effort in learning more about my faith. And so I wasn't really a practicing or believing Catholic. You know, I'm sure back then I didn't even fully believe what the Eucharist meant. Even though I had done my confirmation and communion and all that, all my sacraments, I didn't have that conviction of the Catholic faith. And so I just went along as in like, this is not a big deal. You know, it's a job. I was very ambitious because I was a teen mom, like I said, and a lot of family thought that I had ruined my life and I wasn't gonna do anything with my life as a Latina teen mom and in the hood. And so, of course, I wanted to break all those stereotypes, and so I took it to the bull from los cuernos, como dicen, and I just, you know, kept on going. As a single mother, I graduated with honors in high school, went to university in Riverside, got my undergraduate degree and everything, and wanting to defend women's rights and protect them and help all these vulnerable women, you know. And ironically, and sadly, I also ended up working at my own community, literally 5 minutes away from my home at the Planned Parenthood. And I mean, it breaks my heart now thinking about it that I was part of that horrific industry. You know, a lot of people think like, oh, they get, se ponen sorprendidos or shocked that when they talk about their family members, oh, they're drug dealers or they're gang members, they came out of the hood or all these things. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm not that, but, you know, I worked in the abortion industry where we killed innocent human beings. And I think that's even more horrible.
Crazy. I mean, I guess even back then, you got to see what is going on now with many young women, where they think that doing all these things are gonna help the community as well, right? You know, they're gonna put people on high place, especially themselves. And it's, you know, obviously in the Catholic Church, we all believe we're all equal, right? Men and women alike. You know, that's the way that the Lord intended it. That's the way the Lord wants it for a long time and forever, I'm sure, right? And, you know, you even see it in, you know, amongst Catholic women, right? I remember when I was in high school, there's this young girl who, she was maybe a year older than me. She believed in abortion, right? You know, we actually got in an argument. It's like, you know, how can you, you know, say that killing someone is justifiable, right? You know, especially someone that hasn't had the opportunity to breathe in the air, has had an opportunity to see their mother's face, right? Because again, I mean, people say like, oh, well, they're just pieces of flesh in the womb. I mean, but it's not. Like, you see all these videos of abortions. You know, there's one that I saw that, I mean, for me, it was painful to see because you can see the child. I mean, you don't hear anything, but you can see the face in agony of the child being torn to pieces, right, during an abortion. So, do you think that compared to when you were growing up, do you think the situation has, I don't want to say gotten worse, but do you think you see more of that, of more younger women, especially in the church, saying, oh, it's fine, it's something that women have the right to, maybe it's something that God wants to give them, right? You know, do you think that, or, you know, what's your take on that?
I mean, it's hard to say how the church is, but like as a personal experience and me being serving now, it's hard to tell the condition inside within it. Like I said, firsthand, me being serving as a confirmation teacher at times. But, you know, predominantly, I know for sure that one of the main populations that are getting abortions are Christian women, you know, whether it be a Protestant or Catholic. A lot of, at least I think 30 to 40%, if I'm not mistaken, that get abortions because, again, what is the church going to say? The parents, we're parents, especially with Latino parents, that we're very harsh at, or just in parents general, having the judgment finger towards their daughters, and wanting to maintain this image exteriorly. And so, I mean, I know with our youth, for sure, the justification of abortion is very high, because, like I said, I teach confirmation, and I do see, los monaguillos, our little that are servers, they're completely like, no, but what happens when this and this and this, and thankfully I'm there to answer those questions, and that's why I serve. But definitely our youth do have that mindset of justifying abortion, justifying this killing.
Yeah, it's I mean, for me, like I would get shocked, right? But right now, what I heard that you told us about, that many, or not many, well, yeah, right, some are Christian or Catholic or Protestant, right? Part of the same Christian denomination, right? And I mean, you have a point there. Some girls might feel like they're gonna get judged, especially if they're part of the Latino family household. They might get that from their mom, from their dad. I mean, one of the things how my mom was always telling me. I mean, I'm a guy, right? I'm not a girl, right? But she's always told me, it's like, there's only two ways you're gonna leave the house, right? It's either you're gonna leave with your wife because you're gonna start making a family, right? You're married. Or the second one is you're gonna leave in dos tablas, right? Because it's saying you're gonna die, right? If you die, right? Oh, okay. That's what she was saying. Oh, I'm not saying the mom wants to kill me, but she was implying that, right? It's like you're either gonna leave married, or you're gonna be. If you leave the house, you're dead. One of those two things. Not saying she's gonna kill me, but implying that if I die or something happens, right? So yeah, I mean, we have that mindset as Latinos, and one of the things that I always tell my girlfriend, it's like, yes, our parents are harsh. But we always joke around, it's like, maybe at the end of the day, we might become just like our parents, right? We might become not harsh, but tough on our kids when we grow up, right? Because right now, I mean, I'm sure when you were growing up, you're like, oh, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to keep or be as hard on my kids, right? But when you get older and you have your kids, you're like, oh man, like, I have to step up. I have to take care of them, give them a curfew, this or that, right? Yeah. And I see it, like, I've seen it, like, how do I say it? Like, I kind of thought about it. I'm like, yeah, if I have a daughter, I'm going to give her curfews with her boyfriend. If I have a son, I'm going to give him curfews with his girlfriend, right? To keep that going. But, I mean, going back to the whole point of the families of today, yes, you have a point, right? And I see it. But I know many families as well where their daughters got pregnant at a young age. I mean, we have friends, we know people who are Catholic, who have their kids, who have chosen life at such a young age, and, I try to use that, or I try to put that out there as an example. It's like, hey, they're Latino Catholics who maybe, they're 16, 15, well, whatever age they are, right? Maybe 20, whatever it is. They end up getting pregnant, but they still kept their child. They know that their family is going to be tough on them in the beginning, but when the baby comes out, the whole family is there to support the person. Not every instance, right? Because there's some cases where maybe the family shuns the person away, but in the cases that I have seen, which is basically 98% of the people or the instances I've seen, the family is supportive. The family is there for them. Let their anger, their temper go down a little bit. They'll be there for you. They'll offer their house. They'll take care of the baby for you as well, so you can go work, study, whatever you need to do, right? I mean, do you see that? Do you think that's actually like a valid thing that I just said, or do you think it's kind of like, oh, maybe,
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, the Latino community, thankfully, because of our La Virgen de Guadalupe and our culture, we say yes to life. I mean, that's part of it's like instilled in us, and in a sense, that's why we have big families, and we tend to see more of life as a blessing, una bendición, right? But I feel like that's why, the devil attacks our community so much because we are like that, especially as first, second generations, sons or daughters of immigrants. We're being brainwashed with these ideologies when our parents bring us here. One thing I was like, I sometimes used to get frustrated about is like, why aren't the Latino parents talking about this topic? Why aren't they talking about it at home? They don't just need to tell them out of fear, like either you leave married or you leave dead. But why aren't they talking about abortion? But one time this man told me coming out of church, and he's like, you know what? You know why we don't talk about abortion is because no estaba en mi rancho. It wasn't in my hometown. That word doesn't exist in our culture. So when we immigrate here, it's like, how are we going to bring that up to our own kids? Where we see these Planned Parenthoods or abortion clinics located in our community, predominantly in Latino and Black communities. That's something I wasn't told. I had no clue who Margaret Sanger was, which is the founder of Planned Parenthood, and I worked for that company for 5 years. I had no clue who she was.
All you knew that your job was 5 minutes away.
Yep. And it paid me this much, and I was going to get this experience, and I was going to be like successful. And it was just, I had idolized a career because that's what, we're instilled about having una carrera and, being a go-getter and all those things. And it's like, but, like I said, thankfully I had that young adult group, and I met those young adult coordinators that helped me out by also, I finally came clean about where I worked at some point.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, yeah, you need to leave, Franny. And I'm like,
leave the job, right?
Yes,
not the church.
Not the church. They said, yeah, you need to leave the job because, like I said, it was just so ingrained in me that I didn't know whether, because I thought, well, either I leave the church or I leave my job. I can't serve.
Yeah.
I can't work here and be serving here because, in this youth group, I was looking for reading the Bible and praying, so I can, experience God the way my youth group leaders were experiencing God. And that led me to question why, like, it wasn't until I got into prayer and into God's word that I started realizing, like, wait a minute, what I'm doing is completely contradictory. Mm-hmm. I can't do this. It wasn't the priest. It wasn't the coordinators. It wasn't, somebody screaming at me like you're a murderer. It was the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit spoke to me and put that in my mind and in my heart. It's like, is it correct? Like, and then I was just like, you know what? So I did something radical and I rete a Dios. I do not recommend that. But if you want a radical change, definitely do it. I said, God, you need to show me. You need to show me why this is wrong. Because I grew up like this. I grew up witnessing all these bad things towards my own mother. And, I ended up pregnant. Nobody talked to me about it. I got abandoned by my daughter's father. It's like, where are these women going to go? You need to tell me why this is wrong. And I just cried out to God. And yeah, he definitely did show me why it was wrong. And it took time, but I got there slowly but surely.
I mean, it's crazy how God's like, hey, well, how you said the Holy Spirit's like, hey, I'm going to tell you nicely, calmly, it's not right what you're doing, right? And little by little, he keeps showing you more things. Like, hey, this is why, this and this and this and that, right? And real quick, I want to come back to that. But what you said earlier about how when you got out of church and then that he was Mexican, right? The Mexican guy that told you about the abortion that didn't hear. So this is one thing that mom always tells me as well, that this is a culture where they don't believe in that stuff. or they don't practice it as much as in this country where, you know, Margaret Sanger was trying to promote it throughout the whole country, trying to get everybody on her train. And now you have people from different countries with different traditions and different types of mentalities. They're coming into this country and they're like, oh man, like, you know, what do they believe here? You know, my grandparents, you know, they never talked about it. They never brought it up. They never said anything about it. Right. But they, you know, I have aunts and uncles who believe in that. Like, oh, we need to promote abortion more. You know, women need this available to them as soon as possible and as you know, easily, right? And you know, my grandparents, well, you know, God rest their soul, but they didn't say anything. You know, it's like I can't change. I don't know what to say. I mean, we never got told anything about this in Mexico. You know, this was never promoted as much as it's being promoted here, right? I mean, now you look at it in Mexico, it's promoted all over the country. You know, you have politicians, even Catholic politicians are like, oh, we need to give that right to a woman. And you're like, oh man, like, you know, where is this coming from, right? You know, is there a Catholic bishop out there? Did Pope Francis say something about abortion being right? You know, it stinks, right? Because one of the things that, you know, in my family always says, like, you know, Mexico is Guadalupano, right? That it's a Guadalupano country. A lot of people have a huge devotion to her. And I remember that same day that they said that each state can decide if they want to become a pro-abortion state or a pro-life state, or kind of make those decisions. I remember that there's that big earthquake that happened in Mexico City. I don't know if you remember that. Mm-hmm. The big earthquake, and then like in the sky, you're able to see, I think it started like lightning strikes all over the sky. And, you know, people were saying like, God got disappointed. You know, he's disappointed. You know, most especially they came to the decision in the city where the Lady Guadalupe appeared, right? Yeah. You know, in Mexico City. So for me as a Mexican, you know, it really stings. It really hurts that a nation that has such a huge Catholic devotion has come to that, right? To where we as Catholics that are pro-life are becoming kind of minuscule in Mexico. Like, it's not that majority that it used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? You know, we don't have that fire, or we don't have that, how do I say it? That ambition that our great grandparents had during the Cristero War, right? I mean, to the point where they're even letting themselves get shot just because they wanted to go to church. You know, now they're scared to go out there and say something, because if you say something, you're going to get attacked by a protester. And it's like, what's happening, right? So that's one of the things. And I don't want to keep going at it because I tend to talk a lot too. But the second one was, you know, how the Holy Spirit came to you. And he's like, you know what, Franny? I'm going to change you. Give me time. But peacefully and calmly, let me tell you what's up. You know, this and this and this and that. And now, tell me a little bit more about that. Was it something where you felt like the Lord was, if it's fine, all right, if it's fine, yeah. I don't know, you guys give me that look. If it's fine, like, was this something that took its time, or was it something that's kind of instant?
For me, it took some time, because, I mean, it's just a bit of a process. I don't know if you guys have heard of Abby Johnson's story of conversion, when it was instant when she saw the ultrasound image. Mine wasn't like that. And it was more of just a daily work that I was having. And I started realizing, like, it was like scales coming off of my eyes, you know, like if I was blindfolded to some degree. And the Holy Spirit let me see something totally different, even though I would see it on a daily basis. One main thing that always pops out is seeing how but it was like a revolving door. Like, I was seeing girls come in for birth control, and weeks later or months later coming in for an abortion. And I'm like, we just gave you birth control. I mean, this is supposed to prevent all that. But for whatever reason, they're not taking it. They got off of it. They thought it wouldn't happen to them. I mean, even Planned Parenthood admits that like 40 or more % of women, even though they leave their clinics with birth control, they don't stay on them or continue on them after they leave with them. So even if you're, and I wasn't seeing teen girls, it was mostly, people who were adults that have access to birth control that were coming in for abortions. And I was just like, I realize, it might seem like very naive of me, but I realize I'm not helping women. I'm helping them get used. And just right there, it was just like that week, I was just like, after other things started happening. I worked in the products of conception room, which is the POC lab where they put the baby parts together. And I started feeling guilty of what I was doing. And that's when I said, I can't do this anymore. I have to leave. What I'm doing was wrong. And I had a friend back then that he didn't know anything about what I was going through with my faith and my job. But she told me, she's like, hey, I have an opening in my job. Come and apply, because she's been telling me to go and work with her. And it was just God's providence right there, because it came right when I needed to leave, when I realized I needed to leave. So just right away, I gave my notice, and without even knowing exactly what I was going to do and how much I was going to get paid, I left. I left Planned Parenthood, and I just started this new chapter in my life. And right then, I wasn't completely pro-life. I still believed it. I was just like, okay, God, you got me here now. But there's all these exceptions, right? The ones they always bring up about the rape and the incest and the fetal animalities and the life and risk of the mother. Like, those are the ones that we always bring up as pro-choicers. So I was just like, come on, you got to help me out. And again, God's providence and guiding me and teaching me what the church teaches through different workshops that the church provides in different areas, and learning about the theology of the body, what that was all about, and what God's designed for us. I mean, it was just mind-blowing to learn all these things. And I was just like, I can't believe our church has all this teaching. It was just like falling in love with the church through that process.
Yeah, it's crazy because people think on the pro-life movement is just abstaining from sex, right? And that's it. But they don't realize there's a lot of theology behind it, a lot of research and knowledge and tools, right, that we can go about our lives. And just want to make it clear to our audience, we are not promoting contraception. This is just her story, Franne's story and where she was at. And we're gonna continue listening how you change all that, and now you're on this side, right, on the pro-life and with the Catholic teachings. So you change jobs. You're still struggling, right? How did that get you to today? Right? How do you took out all those beliefs, all those radical beliefs, right? Because you gotta be crazy to actually believe it once you see the truth. How were you able to step away from all that indoctrination and rewrite your emotions, right? Because I'm pretty sure you were emotionally driven at the beginning to be there, So how were you able to rewrite your emotions?
Yeah, I mean, that was a whole nother step as well and journey. I brought my daughter, my other daughter. And so it was a whole nother journey, and I was in my comfort zone as a Católica. I'm going to just serve. I'm just going to believe. I'm just going to pray in my own little world. And, nobody needs to know I'm pro-life now. That's too radical for me, right?
Little do they know.
Little that I know, God had something else even more planned for me. And that's when, I came across someone, and one of those workshops, Catholic workshops I went to that talked about why the church is against contraception. Because like I said, this was all like new to me, and I was just like questioning everything. And I went, and this amazing woman called Catherine, who runs Vox Vitae, another pro-life program, she told me, she's like, did you know, because I asked a question and I told them where I used to work, and they're like, did you know that there's a retreat for abortion workers? And I was just like, what?
Wow.
And she's like, yeah, there's there's a retreat specifically for you guys. Abby Johnson holds them. You should go. And I was just like, what? And it's like, that's the first time I thought, what, I need healing from working there. And it was just something so new. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to go. And I eventually found some time and went. And that was the breakthrough I needed. Finding other women that used to work in the abortion industry. I found healing through those retreats at Abby Johnson and then there were none. I realized that I needed healing from that. And from there, the fear of coming out pro-life and defending life went away. And I just felt more courageous and more confident that, I can stand up for life, regardless of who was around or what my friends or family would think about me.
It's like God was kind of throwing the tools at you as you were going through your conversion, right? They offered you that retreat. Maybe God's like, and you were saying yourself, right? You needed that healing, so that was a way that God's like, you know what? I'm going to send her to this retreat, repair her soul, whatever she needs to get out of herself, right? To fully submerge herself into the conversion, right? Because again, there's people out there that kind of go through a little mini conversion, like, oh, I still believe in these other things, but I kind of want to believe in these other things. So, God kind of, it's like how they do the old school baptisms where like they kind of drench you in the water and then bring you out. That's kind of what God did with you, right? Mm-hmm. With all these things that he was throwing at you. And, I've heard stories of, women and men that were practicing, in the abortion industry, who converted, and you listen to them now, it's like their whole basis of the pro-life movement isn't just, okay, we need to give people life, this and that. Like their base is now faith as well. They're bringing up God more instead of like, yes, there's factual evidence, there's scientific evidence about what the effects of abortion are, about when life is actually beginning, which is in conception. But they don't just use that information. They bring up more how, these are created in the image of God. You yourself, right? You have the devotion to the Blessed Mother, right? You're going to these pro-life rallies, but you're not just going as a pro-lifer, you're going as a Catholic pro-lifer, right? And there's many of these people that have converted, like, I'm going as a Christian pro-lifer or as a Catholic pro-lifer, right? It's not just, oh, I'm going as a pro-lifer, that's it. Mm-hmm. And I still believe in contraception and all these things.
Yes.
Right? You're going as a Catholic pro-lifer that believes in the doctrine of the church, which is not something that man wanted to input into or put on people, but it's something that God wanted for people to follow and to believe in, right? So, for me, seeing you, and also, I think she's actually the first person that I've met who has had that kind of conversion. You always hear all these stories of other people doing that, working in a clinic, and then, now being a complete messenger of the pro-life movement. You're the first person I meet, right? I've never actually, so it's an honor and it's a privilege of being, here interviewing you. But no, again, I'm very happy that the Lord, he he displayed his mercy on you, right? He displayed his love on you. Because again, that's what he is. I mean, he's love and mercy, and you can see there that he was waiting for you. He was waiting for you. It's like, she knows the faith. She's there. She's a little bit, está como, how do you say, tibiecita, right?
Yeah.
Está tibia. But I'm going to get her high. I'm going to get her on this side, and that's exactly what he did with you. You have, a beautiful daughter. You have another daughter, right? You have two, right? So, the Lord is giving you blessings after blessings, and it's something that never ends, right? The Lord's love and his mercy never ends. And just real quick, just to end the episode, do you have anything you'd like to tell young women out there, anybody who might be struggling with any of this?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I know it's a lot to take on and a lot of information that it's out there, but definitely start somewhere. I mean, there's so many resources that our church provides. Mm-hmm. And so many places, or maybe you already have these convictions and you're like, well, how can I help? Another way that I found healing as well, after going to the retreat, was attending the 40 Days for Life campaign. And I was very intimidated, very scared in doing that. I mean, that's what helped Abby Johnson's conversion. They had sidewalk counselors outside and people praying outside her clinic, and through their intercession and prayer, she converted. And so this campaign, it's run twice a year. The upcoming one is in spring, during Lent. That's when it begins on February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Almost.
Yeah, for 40 days, people pray outside the abortion clinics across the nation, across the world, because now it's worldwide. And it doesn't have to be every day, provide the time that you can. And there's they even have, you can put in your zip code, what's the nearest one, whether it be your school, your job, your house, the nearest one that you can pray the campaign, 40 Days for Life. And that's where I started as well, finding healing and being less intimidated and scared, because in the end, you get to see how much more support there is. The first campaign, to test the waters, I went in Downey on Firestone. There's a FPA there. And yeah, you get some pushback, but that's only if anything 5%, and then the rest is thumbs up and people are honking in support. We're in California, but you'd be surprised how many people really do support the pro-life movement. So that's pretty amazing. And another thing, serving in our youth and confirmation, that would be other ways to serve and teach about the pro-life message, because we need more catechists. Every parish needs them. So what best way to have real pro-life catechists? I'm sure there's pro-choice catechists there inside. So replacing those with pro-life catechists would be awesome. And, there's something called the Vox Vitae youth camp coming up in June. That's a whole week long for teenagers from 14 to 18. They have their young adult nights as well that talk about the pro-life message, how to defend it, what's it about, how to get involved with politics, legislator, how to become active, and praying outside as well. So that's available.
No, well, that's a lot of resources. Thank you. Also, I don't know if you have anything else, because I know the camera died. Oh. So we're just on audio right now. But go for it.
We'll go on audio. So I've been part of a few of the days, with the 40 Days for Life with Franne. That's how I actually met her, out in the streets of Downey. Actually, that's where I met you.
Oh yeah.
And then from there we continued in what is it, South Central?
Yes.
Very beautiful experience overall, because you do see the community, like you said, about 95% of the community is supporting of the movement. It's just there's a big misconnection between the population in the politicians here in California.
Oh yes.
Right? We have opened our eyes that, like you said, that Planned Parenthood targets our communities more than affluent neighborhoods. You're never gonna see a Planned Parenthood. One if there is just to cover the, like they say in Spanish, cubrirle el ojo al macho. One in Beverly Hills, but you'll never see it in Laguna Hills. You'll never see it in Anaheim Hills. You're always gonna see it in South Central. You're gonna see it in like Downey. It's actually right next to the high school. And correct me if I'm wrong. Were they able to put those Planned Parenthoods inside the schools in US?
They were trying to, but
it got shut down. Mm-hmm. Thank God.
You guys fought back.
But they're always in the works and trying to bring that up. I mean, trying to change the curriculum. It's like, okay, why don't they add an actual abortion procedure? Mm-hmm. Show the actual abortion instruments. I worked in there and we would cover those. I would cover those instruments and people don't really know how ugly they look.
I think I wanted to do a second show on that.
We can?
When we can talk about the myths and the lies about Planned Parenthood, the numbers, the true numbers, because I feel like they make up some of these numbers to look pretty, right? To justify what they're doing. If you want to join Franne, one of the best websites is 40daysforlife.com. I don't know if you want to drop somewhere to contact you or at least where you're going to be at for the 40 days.
This campaign, I'm going to be at the Hawthorne location, dropping in there. You'll be able to find it on the 40 Days for Life website, or you can also find me on Instagram at Breaking the Silence as well, or Facebook as Franne Flowers.
Well, first of all, Franne, thank you so much for joining us. I know that the camera died on us, so it's gonna be, it was still a great episode. I really enjoyed learning more about this, especially your conversion story. I mean, it's amazing how God manifested His love upon you, and still continues to do that. Because again, I mean, that's all He does, right? He loves and He forgives, and He wants nothing more but the best for every single one of us, especially, those who may not be in the path, right? Especially those who still believe in things contrary to the church. He still loves them. So again, you guys can follow her, you said on Facebook, right? Franne Flowers. If you guys have any questions, get some updates on any future events or campaigns regarding the pro-life movement. But again, guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Alonso, for joining me in this episode. And as well, Franne, thanks for being with us, taking time out of your Sunday to be with us in this recording. But guys, don't forget, I'm looking at the camera, but guys, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. This video will still be on YouTube, even if it's just audio, but also follow us on Instagram. If you guys have some questions for Franne, you guys can also email us at iamdigitalman.com or iamdigitalman@gmail.com or through our Instagram, which is Imago Dei Digital Men, and then we can actually forward those questions over to Franne and get those answers. And again, guys, thank you for joining us in this episode, and God willing, we will see you guys next week with another interview. Take care.
Thank you.